Yinka Shonibare's 2003 sculptural installation, Scramble for Africa, represents the Berlin Conference of 1844 to 45 to highlight the lasting impacts of colonialism and unpack economic systems of globalization. Through the symbolic power of costuming, this sculpture exposes the paradoxes of colonial logic and rewrites widely accepted truths with humor. Textiles, silhouettes, and the mannequin's posture are crucial creative choices that imbue the overall installation with layers of historical context and cultural signifiers. Shonibare's sculptural scene is composed of 14 headless mannequins, representing the 14 European powers present at the conference. The figures sit around a table with the continent of Africa imposed onto it, theatrically gesticulating a tableau from the Berlin Conference. This event was just one of many that contributed to the process of colonization in Africa between the 1880s and the start of World War I, also known as the Scramble for Africa. The mannequins range in flesh tones, eliminating the possibility of a fixed race or locality. The decapitated heads and ethnic ambiguity focuses attention on the gestures and clothing to make meaning of, instead of relying on preconceived racial signifiers. Yinka Shonibare costumes his mannequins in Victorian tailored suits made from vibrant Dutch wax fabrics. These textiles are widely assumed to be indigenous to the African continent and have been tied to popular perceptions of African aesthetics. However, their origins bring us to the colonial Dutch Empire, where the prints were manufactured by appropriating and industrializing the Indonesian practice of batik. When the Dutch fabrics intended for Indonesian markets were rejected due to design flaws, the material exports were redirected to be sold in the Dutch colonies in Africa. Thus, the fabric maps a rich colonial history of cultural interconnectedness. The textiles serve to disrupt the European construction of a fixed African identity because its roots represent globalized cycles of appropriation, reclamation, domination, and colonization, pointing out that notions of identity and culture are constitutive and in constant communication with infinite historical moments. The title of this work, Scramble for Africa, privileges the moniker coined by British imperialists as opposed to the neutralized language of a conference. The phrasing relates to the chaotic and arbitrary ethos of Europe's division and conquest of the continent. By naming the visual representation of the year-long event after the decades-long process, this sculpture suggests that colonialism is an ongoing structure rather than an event. This work exposes the hypocrisy of the Western art world and what it deems as waste versus fine art by bringing the Dutch wax prints, which were discarded to African markets because of defects, into the hegemonic institution that is an art museum. The playful juxtaposition between the traditionally Victorian silhouettes made from aesthetically linked African textiles acts as a reminder that European aristocracy was built off the exhaustive exploitation of the African colonies. The structure of the Victorian suit is quite literally constructed from the African fashion mainstay of Dutch wax prints, referencing how European industrialization was dependent on stolen resources and labor from Africa. The decorative costuming Yinka Shonibare uses in his sculpture, Scramble for Africa, uses a framework of parody and appropriation to criticize and subvert colonially constructed common sense. Storytelling through mannequins and textiles, this work posits an artistic pathway to reshaping the conceptual landscape of Africa's history with humor.